Welcome to the Sales Hunter podcast. My name's Mark Hunter, and this is now the new version, Mondays with Mark. What are we going to do? We're going to dive in and discuss a topic current, relevant, to motivate you, to get you going for the week. Join me every week, Monday mornings, right here, live on social media or on your favorite podcast app. Why am I talking? Let's get the show going right now. What are we talking about right now? We're talking about the start of the second half of the year. Guess what, folks? The score is 0-0. That's right. It's 0-0. I don't care how good of a first half you had. I don't care how bad of a first half you had. The score right now is 0-0. Why do I say this? It's because we start with a clean slate. Here's the deal. I want you right now to begin taking a deep assessment of the activities that you did in the first half. I want to get very serious here, and I want you to think back, because I hope you've read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. James Clear writes in his book Atomic Habits the importance of habits and the importance of stacking them. Now, let's get into this a little bit more, though, because here's the deal. It's easy for us to get really caught up and really think that it's all about making our number. And it is all about making your number. But I've never found a customer who makes a buying decision based off of your quota. Bob Berg shared that with me on the recent episode of the Sales Hunter podcast. Check that out with Bob Bergman. Here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about customers don't care about your quota. What they care about is getting their problem solved. So let's back up the bus here. And let's begin to unpack this. And I'm going to unpack this by sharing with you an example, sharing with you a story that happens in sports all the time. And I'm going to use football as example. And I remember a very prominent coach shared with me this. He said, Mark, I rarely look at the scoreboard. In fact, this individual won 5 national championships, college football. Okay, I'm talking Tom Osborne. When he was at Nebraska, he said, I rarely looked at the scoreboard to understand what the score is. Instead, we had 7 metrics that we measured. And I knew that if we were winning on those metrics, we would score more points. You see, what happens is we get so fixated on the points, on closing the deals, that we fail to realize it's the plays we run on the field. That's the football game. For us, it's the calls that we make, the conversations that we have. And Tom Osborne and his team had 7 metrics, and they were broken down between offense, defense, and special teams. But he knew that those 7 metrics were key. Now, how did he get to those 7 metrics? Because they broke apart every element of what they do on the football field. Every element. And they ultimately came down to 7 metrics that mattered. Now, the 7 metrics that mattered, they had to work on in the weight room, on the practice field. They had to work on and same thing with you in sales. I want you to stop and I want you to think about this for a moment. What are the pieces that you're doing? And hey, Alan Hall is jumping in. He's saying, go Mark. And he's saying, go Big Red. Of course, always do. And hey, if you're checking this live, jump in. Love to have comments pop up. We'll pop them up on the screen as they appear. So here's the situation. What are your metrics? Now, typical salesperson. We're making emails, or we're sending emails. We're having phone calls. We're having conversations. We're sending proposals, et cetera, et cetera. I do the same thing in my job. And I know that there's a whole series of things that I have to do in order to close a sale. But what I have found is it comes down to absolutely one metric. One metric. My one metric is the number of conversations I'm having each day with people who can buy from me, who have bought from me, in other words, they're current customers, or they can refer me. Okay, let's walk through that again. I'm having 5 conversations a day with people who either buy from me, they're current customers, they're prospects, people I'm trying to close, or people who can refer me. And I count any of those as one. And my goal is to get 5 every day. Now, do I get 5 every day? No, I don't necessarily get 5 every day. But here's what I found. The closer I get to 5, the more success I'm going to have. Now, here's the deal. I know that to get to those 5, I've got to be doing a whole series of other things. But my focus is on the one metric, the one metric. I'm going to challenge you. The score is 0-0. We're starting the second half of the year. And your objective is to understand what is the metric. Now, let's put this back into context with the football example I was sharing with you earlier. Whether they be on offense, defense, or special teams on the football field, there were 7 metrics that they had to achieve. But they knew they had to run all these other plays in practice and master them in order to do them in the game correctly. Same thing in sales. Same thing. I know in order for me to have my 5 conversations a day, I have to be able to make enough other phone calls, leave enough voicemail messages, send enough emails, comment on social media, do various things to make that happen. Now, here's the situation that salespeople get really messed up on. And sales leaders, if you're leading a sales team, you mess up your team. You wind up creating too many metrics. You create too many metrics. And as a result, everything gets diluted down. I go back to my days when I was in corporate America running a sales team. And I'll never forget, we would establish the quarterly objectives. And because we as a sales team were representing several different divisions in the company, each division wanted to have their own goals. Each division wanted to have, and before you knew it, we were going out the door at the start of the quarter with about 15 to 20 different objectives. And there was no way that we could master them all. There was no way. And as a result, everything got muddied down. Everything got watered down. We had to then break them down and say, okay, we're going to do these. They're going to be major and minor. These are going to be the major objectives, and these are going to be the minor objectives. We had to keep breaking them. I'm going to challenge you to break them down and not get distracted, because that's what was happening to us as a sales team, as a sales organization. We were getting distracted because we had so many other factors coming in saying, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Stay absolutely focused. This is why I'm a strong believer in the one metric, because that one metric is the one metric that will make the biggest amount of difference in your business. What's your one metric? I want you to take a step back and I want you to begin looking at all of the sales calls you make, all of the emails you send, all of the presentations, and begin asking yourself, what's working, what's not working in there? And again, there's a number that you're going to have to send out. I get that. But what does it ultimately come down to? I was dealing with a sales team recently, and their number one metric was simply qualifying the prospect. In other words, moving the person from suspect to prospect, because they knew that once they qualified the prospect, there was about an 80% probability of closing. See, so that was their metric. Their metric was just qualifying the prospect. And they are working on refining that one little piece to be absolutely pure. In other words, that when that is qualified, it closes. Yeah. I was working with another sales team back here a couple months ago, and the one metric we had to work on, the one metric that they decided was the ability to close at full price. Now, the reason they had done that, the reason we selected that is because they were suffering from a huge issue of cutting price to close deals. Well, they were cutting price to close deals because they were really dealing with the wrong customers. They weren't dealing with the decision makers. They were not dealing with people who they ultimately could make the biggest amount of difference with. So we honed in on the metric of closing deals at full price, which then meant we had to go back upstream and begin amending all of these other activities. But what happened in both of these examples, the one with the price that happened some time ago, and the one that's happening right now, is the sales team is able to get focused. The sales team is able to get focused. And this is what is so key, because when I'm focused, it's amazing at how much more attention I can give it. Here's the thing. We can't allow ourselves to get caught up in distractions. Alan, I love your comment. Distractions are deal killers. They sure are. And just yesterday, I was looking at a text that had been sent to me. Text from a friend of mine said, "Hey, take a look at this. This is really powerful in terms of social media." So I followed the rabbit trail, took me to a LinkedIn post, and suddenly began to realize that, whoa, this person has got a tremendous amount of followers. And I began to get a little envious. I mean, I've got a lot of followers, but this person had a lot more followers than me. And I began to say, whoa, wow, there's a concern I've got. And you're right, it is a concern. But here's the deal. I can't allow it to distract me. Andy Greenberg is jumping in. He's in Germany right now. He says, my metric was how soon each of my team members will be over sales margin and profit goal. Right. It's being very tightly focused. That's what is so key. You see, here's the thing. We muddy the water when we try to do too many things at one time. Our whole goal is to just get tight. Because when we get tight, then we can create more focus. If you look at any person who is incredibly successful at whatever they do, you will see a level of focus. This is what James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, talks about so much. And I can't stress that enough. So as we start the second half of the year, here's my challenge. I want you to push everything else aside and focus in on the metric. Now, the metric that you're measuring, and let's take a look at my 5 conversations a day. I did not start out with 5. I started out with 2. I started out with 2 conversations a day. Then I began to realize that I could achieve that, and I went to 3. I went to 4. And I went to 5. There have been times when I've said, maybe I could increase that to 6 or 7. But then I run into problems and I back off. You see, my objective is I want to have a metric that I know I can achieve about 80% of my time. Let me give you another quick example. About 10 years ago, I made a commitment to get back into the gym. And when I got back into the gym to get in shape, it was hard doing weights. It was hard. It was absolutely hard. This morning, as I was doing my workout, I couldn't help but think back to 10 years ago and the weights and the reps that I was not able to do 10 years ago, I'm able to do now with ease. You see, why? Because it was the repetition. It's been the repetition of 10 years. Now, I'm not sitting there saying, oh, Mark, this is going to take me 10 years to do this. No, but what I find is amazing at how when you do a small activity regularly, you will achieve significant results. The biggest challenge salespeople have is they try to divide themselves and be a master of 10, 12, 14 different things. Okay, let me put a disclaimer on this, because the disclaimer I'm going to put on this is, you're right, there are a lot of other things. And that's where time blocking comes into play. Absolute time blocking. If you look at my calendar today, you will see that my calendar is absolutely filled and it's time blocked for different activities, different things. But in my calendar today are spaces where I'm going to have those 5 conversations. You see, yes, I've got other things I've got to worry about. I've got other things I've got to deal with. But within that, I block time for those 5 things. 2 things I want to leave you with. 1, it's the start of the new quarter, start of the new half. Love it. Love it. And what I want you to do is I want you to find that one metric, break apart all of your processes, break apart all of your processes and find that one thing and get excited about it. Get excited about it. Set the number low. Set the number low so you can achieve it. Because I'll tell you what, success creates success. Momentum creates momentum. Motivation creates motivation. Firmly believe in this. You may be struggling right now, and I want you to then just say, you know what? It's going to be 1 call. That's it. 1 call or 2 calls, whatever it might be. I'm going to send out 1 email. I don't care. And then pat yourself on the back. Congratulations. And say, now I can do 2. Now I can do 3. And you increase yourself. We're all going to have an incredible second half of the year because we're tightly focused. We're tightly focused on our metric. Okay, let me give you a little bit of a peek under the tent as to what we're doing. This is the new format we're going with. Still 2 episodes a week of the Sales Hunter podcast. The deep dive with a subject matter expert, like you get every Wednesday. But this one here is done live on social media, and it comes out 2 weeks later on podcast format. That's why if you're catching this live, you're going to sit there and say, hey, Mark, you're talking about the second half of the year and it's still a couple of weeks away. You're right. Because again, this will come out 2 weeks from now. Hey, Jim Duffy jumps in with a question. What technology do you use to measure your KPIs for consistent measurement? You know what? The technology I use is very simple. It is my CRM system. I am married to my CRM system. The question I ask salespeople all the time who are calling me up, I'm having calls with them, talking to them. I'm struggling. I said, is your CRM system open right now on your computer? It is amazing the number of salespeople. So I use my CRM system to measure all of my KPIs. And my KPIs, very simply this, 5 conversations a day. What are some of my other metrics I have? Sure, I have other metrics in terms of emails that we're sending out, in terms of who's on our email list, et cetera, but that's all secondary. It's all secondary. Keep your focus on the focus. And hey, Alan, thank you so much. Love the new format. Get fired up for the week. Every Monday morning, this is going to be coming to you on social media. I'm excited for the week. In fact, let me end with this. I wake up Monday mornings excited because it's the best day of the week, because I got the whole week out ahead of me. Hey, I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. You've been listening to the Sales Hunter podcast, 2 episodes a week, one like this, and the second one where you do a deep dive. Do me a favor. If you like the new format, leave me a review on your favorite podcast app. Pop me a note. Send me a message on LinkedIn, YouTube, however you want to. My goal is one thing, to help you see and achieve what you didn't think was possible. I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. Great selling.